Yes, yes, yes. Started. Hey, Jessica. I don't know if you're just going to listen to me on mute or not. It's 1 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And hopefully there's going to be people jumping in, but thank you for being on time. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you doing?
Good. And you're with me for an hour, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. No worries. Thanks for checking us out. I appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for inviting me.
Where other people are saying hello. We're doing a hybrid event where I think I told you people could come in person. So we're testing it out where people can be in person or be on Zoom. So I'm glad this worked for you to join for a while. So
Perfect. Me too.
and like I said, hopefully other people are going to be jumping in. It's that time of year where we're never sure how many people we're going to get each time. So what we're doing today is we're going to talk about creating a business plan for 2022. And one of the things that's important about that is we are in what we call a quarterly business. Hold on, maybe I need to hold off just a minute or so longer because we got other people joining. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
It looks like I'm going to need to slow down a little bit. Slow my roll. I'm good, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm good. I'm on my lunch hour, so I'm like, oh.
I know, that's fine. And hi, Angelica. Nice to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Write down, you know, you can come hang out with me in the room if you want to, because I'm right here in the main area.
Okay, I'm gonna do it from my office because I'm waiting for a call. Sorry.
No worries, that's totally fine. So I was getting started, but there's more people jumping in, so I'm just going to give it like another minute.
Okay.
It's good to see all of you guys. So you guys, thanks for joining me. I was getting started and I realized I probably was getting started too quick. So I'm just going to give it about 1 more minute or 30 more seconds to see if we have more people jump in, and then I'll go ahead and get started. Excuse me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining me, but I want to make the most use of your time since you guys did such a good job of being on time. So thank you for that. And just a little quick introduction about me. I think you guys all know me, but just a little introduction. So my name's Laura Gleason. I'm the team leader for the Keller Williams Santa Clara Valley office. And I've been in real estate for 21 years. Prior to my real estate career, I have a master's degree in higher education administration and used to work at the college level and mostly in administration, but I did teach a bit and I helped develop some curriculum. So teaching is a passion for me. It's near and dear to my heart. I love doing it. And I know quite a few of you on this Zoom have seen me teach before. So hopefully you guys enjoy what we're going to do today. So today we're going to talk about planning your business for next year and setting goals so that you can crush 2022. And why would we start planning now? What is it about real estate as a career that you would start planning ahead of time for 2022 instead of like in January? Why do we do that right now? Anybody want to come off and answer the question? Come off mute. Okay. Oh, Jennifer, are you going to say something?
I don't know. I was just saying, I just think of real estate like it's like you grow a garden, right? You plant seeds and then like you start feeding it and watering it and watching it grow. And so you can't just like, or like a fruit tree, you can't expect to pick the fruit like tomorrow, like it's got to grow.
Yeah, that's so much better of an answer than I was going to give. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, a garden doesn't grow overnight, does it? So we have to plant seeds and plan ahead. And we're also in the real estate business, we're in a quarterly business. What we plan now in terms of planting those seeds doesn't grow into fruit or vegetables until about 3 months from now. We're in a quarterly business. So everything that you're doing right now is going to get you on track for an amazing 2022. So that's why Keller Williams as a company does a lot of business planning in the fall months to get you planning ahead. So today we're focusing on that. I have a great presentation for you. And I like to start off my presentation. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you all. And let me just get this in slideshow mode for everybody. Okay, so here, oops, hang on a second. Yeah, this will work. Okay, can you guys all see then? This is hold on just a sec. Let me do this one more time from beginning. And I'm just going to hit duplicate instead. There, that's better. Okay, so what it takes to be successful in real estate, prep for 2022 business planning. So the way I like to start a class like this, the way I start most of my classes is to really getting your head in the game, starting to think about your mindset and where your head's at. So think about why you're here today. Why are you guys here today? What are some reasons that you chose to come to a class like that? Who would like to share? Don't be shy. I promise there's not a lot of times that I'm going to ask you to share during this class. There's just a few, but don't be shy. Why are you guys here today?
I would like a roadmap to success.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm going to help you with that today. Why else did you choose a class like this today? Who else would like to share? And I can't see the chat. You guys have to talk. Okay. Who's that?
For me, it's just like, yes, hey Laura.
Okay, hi.
Yeah, just for me, it's just kind of seeing how it works, and like it was said earlier, planting those seeds for later. My plan appears to be evolving and changing by the day. So whatever options or avenues I have to explore, the better.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anyone else that wants to share why they're here today? So one of the things that's really important for you guys to know is that in this real estate career that you've chosen, because the way it's structured in your independent contractors, you don't show up for work every day. You don't clock in and out. It's very hard to get fired from an office and that sort of thing. You're really kind of on your own. And at the same time, every real estate agent out there is a small business owner. We all own our own businesses. And are you going to be a smart business owner? Or are you just going to kind of fly by the seat of your pants? And would you agree that a smart business owner is going to create a plan? They're going to set some goals, and they're going to really work towards achieving those goals by learning, growing, all those kinds of things. So in real estate, it's no different. And those agents out there that are really successful, they create plans. They set goals. They don't just think of something in their head. They're very intentional about what they do. And part of that process is attending a class like today so that you can continue to learn. The other part of that is thinking about why you're in this business. What is your big why? How hot is it? How hot is that big why? Why are you in this real estate career? What is this career doing to help you live a big life? What is it doing for you? We have a saying at Keller Williams that the purpose of business is to fund a big life, to fund a purposeful big life. So what is that? Why are you here? None of you guys have to share that, but maybe jot a few things down of what is the bigger picture for me? Why am I here? Why am I interested in this career? And why am I educating myself in a class like today to help me achieve this big why? And then another thing that we like to talk about at KW is moving from what we call E to P, entrepreneurial to purposeful. What does entrepreneurial mean to you? When you hear that word, what does that mean to you? Let's get one definition. Who would like to share?
I think it's someone who has unique ideas and introduces it to society, and he's outside of the box and is looking for an independent way of life as well.
Okay. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing all of that. Absolutely. All those qualities are what we think about when we think about being entrepreneurial. What I'm asking you to do is take those qualities and make them purposeful. Okay. I want you to break through some of your ceilings of achievement so that you can get to a certain level, break through that level by being purposeful about your goals, being purposeful about all that creativity you're coming up with, and continuing to break through so that you can grow to higher and higher levels. So it's great to have an entrepreneurial spirit. And it's another thing to take that spirit, to take that creativity, that outside of the box thinking, and make it purposeful by building a plan so that you can continue to grow and make that spirit work for you. So we're going to continue in a class like this. This is why you're here, to help you get to the next level, break through that level and get to the next level. Now, one other thing I want you to think about. I want all of you to think about this today as you're in this class. Are you an A student? Are you showing up today as best as you possibly can with everything you've got going on in your life? I know some of you are on lunch breaks and that sort of thing. So do your best to show up today and be as purposeful as possible. Remember, C gets fired. If you were in any other job and you're just showing up on average as a C, typically around here, people are going to get fired. So where are you showing up on this scale, and where do you show up every day in your real estate career? So keeping in mind, why are you here today? Think about that. And so that make sure that I'm covering those things that you're hoping to get answers for today. Okay. Pretty sure I'm gonna, and there'll be time for you to ask questions. All right. So, we're going to talk about the science behind a successful real estate career. Did you guys know there's a science behind it? It's not just fly by the seat of your pants. Okay. There is actually some science behind this and what makes an outstanding business plan. So a tip for you at the bottom that you can write down is: people aim for nothing and hit it with amazing accuracy. Now, you can aim for something and you're still going to hit it. If you think about a target or a bullseye, you can aim for the middle of that target, or you can aim for nothing, you're still going to hit something. So wouldn't it make more sense to aim for something than to aim for nothing? And that's where you start asking yourself, well, what am I aiming for? What's my plan? What am I going to do to make my aim more straight so I can get to the center of that plan, to that target, and really hit my goals? So think about that. What are you aiming for? And I'm going to help you with that today. So when we're focusing on our class today, we're going to be looking at Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I want to get it right in front of me so you guys can see it. Millionaire Real Estate Agent book is a book that was written by Gary Keller, who's the name behind Keller Williams, the Keller name behind Keller Williams, and a few other people that helped him write this book. And in this book, the MREA book, they talk about 4 models: the economic model, the lead gen model, the budget model, and the organizational model. Now, let me explain to you why this book is so important. So we live in a world today of paid opinion. There's tons of books out there, and pretty much all of the news channels, all day long, for at least 22 hours of news, it's really paid opinion. Tons of books out there of paid opinion, of how you're going to get rich or whatever their opinion is. This book, the MREA book, is not a book of paid opinion. It's actually a book that was done in research. Gary Keller and the people who wrote the book with him researched the top real estate agents in the United States that were already earning over $1 million in their careers, and found that they had patterns that were showing up that were very similar from agent to agent to agent. They interviewed agents all over the country. not just Keller Williams agents, they interviewed any agent that was earning over $1 million, and they found patterns that were showing up, and they wrote a book about those patterns. That's the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. They said, okay, we've interviewed a ton of agents that are already doing this. Guess what? There's patterns that show up for all of them. Let's write a book on the patterns, which becomes a roadmap, which Jessica, I think that was the term you used, a roadmap for how to achieve this status. Okay. And what they found was that there was 4 different models that were showing up for every millionaire real estate agent. There was the economic model. That's knowing your numbers. We're going to dig into that deep today. There's the lead generation model, which is your activities. And then there's the budget model, which is your money, and the organizational money model, which is your people. We're going to spend most of our time today on these 2, because I find that most agents, if you are not nailing these 2, if you're not getting these 2 right, the rest of it doesn't matter. Okay, we're going to spend most of our time there today. I'm going to touch on these 2 a little bit. And then I highly encourage you guys to be reading the book as well. So I want everybody to take out a blank piece of paper, because we're going to do a quiz. How well do you know your numbers? We have numbers that we keep track of in a real estate career, and probably some of you have no idea what that means right now. And I'm going to ask you some questions on the next slide, and I want to know how well you know your numbers. So this becomes your economic plan, which is knowing your numbers. All right. So again, the first model in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book is the economic model. All right. Question number 1. How much money do you want to make in 2022? Gross commission income. How much money do you want to make? Write that down. Remember, people aim for nothing and still hit it with amazing accuracy. So let's aim for something. How much money do you want to make next year? Question number 2. How many people are in your database? Sometimes people call that a sphere of influence. Sometimes people call that a data bank. How many people are in your database? Your database equals every single person you know in your world, plus everybody else, everybody that you're meeting through your lead generation efforts that you're adding to the database. So it starts with the people you know, and then it starts with the people you're adding, and it equates both of those things. What's the difference between a database and a pipeline? Somebody answer that question for me. What's the difference between a database and a pipeline? Angelica, I think you know the answer. I don't know if you're on your phone call right now. Angelica, can you help me with that one? What's the difference between your database and your pipeline?
Databases, I believe everyone that you know, your sphere of influence, everyone you meet. And then your pipeline is like leads.
Yeah, it's broken down a little bit. Thank you, Angelica, for participating. Your database is everybody you know. Your pipeline are the people you're actively working with, your active buyers and your active sellers. So you might have 500 people in your database, which is a great number to have, but you're not actively working with all 500 of those people. You may be working with 5% of those people, 2% of those people as active buyers and sellers. And so in your pipeline, you're going to be keeping track of who your current buyers are, who your current sellers are, and where they're at in the phase of the transaction. Are they just getting started? Are they a year out? Are they 2 years out? Are you actively getting their house ready to sell, which is now more about a month away from a sale or a closed transaction? Are you actively working with buyers who you're writing offers with, which means you're working with them right now actively? So you've got 2 things to be thinking about. Who's in your database? How many people do you know? And who's in your pipeline? How many people are you actively working with? Next question. What did you produce this year in 2021? What was your volume? How much volume did you produce? How many units? How many closings? How many sides did you do? Buyer sides and seller sides. Those are your units. And what was your gross commission income? So your gross commission income is the income you earned, the gross income. The units are the sides that you sold, buyer sides and seller sides. And the volume is the amount of real estate you sold, what the price tag was on the real estate. Do you know those numbers? Are you keeping track of them? Next question, how many contacts did you make this year? How many new people did you meet to add to everybody else that you know in this world into your database or your data bank? How many contacts did you make this year? How many new people did you meet? Next question, what were your conversion rates? How many contacts, people you met, turned into appointments, turned into actual buyer appointments or seller appointments? How many of those appointments turned into actual contracts where they agreed to work with you either as a buyer or a seller? And how many of those contracts turned into closings? Those are conversion rates that we keep track of in a real estate career. Again, it's first, how many contacts did you make? Who did you meet? Who did you add to your database? Then of those contacts, how many of those people that you met turned into an actual buyer or seller appointment? Of those appointments, what turned into an actual contract that they agreed to work with you? Either you're helping them buy a home or sell a home. And of those contracts, what turned into an actual closing? Do you know those numbers? Are you keeping track of them? If you're not now, should you start? Okay, next question. What % of your business was seller-based and what % of your business is buyer-based this year? Let's talk about 2021. What % is seller-based and what % is buyer-based? What are your costs of sales for this year? And then I'm going to add this one to you. And what are your expenses for this year? So you're going to look at those two and you're going to say, okay, well, expenses, I get what expenses are. Those are things that I have to pay for in real estate. What is a cost of sale? Who knows what a cost of sale is in real estate? When you're doing your taxes and you're working on all of this with your CPA, you've got your expenses that you're figuring out and you've got your cost of sales. Who knows what a cost of sale is?
The cost of sale has to do with the money that you spent on, say you had a seller selling the property. So it's your marketing, it's your advertising. It might even be if you paid for staging, things like that.
Thank you. Almost correct, Jenny. Your costs of sales are the costs you incur by any transaction that you're in. Whether you're working with buyers or sellers, you have that cost because you're in a transaction. Expenses can be marketing. You can do marketing without ever being in a transaction. So your cost of sales can be staging, can be paying a transaction coordinator, can be paying for some closing costs, can be paying for, maybe you have a buyer's agent on your team and you're closing on a transaction and you have to pay your buyer's agent. Okay. Those are things that are directly related to selling a property, having a transaction. That's a cost of sale. Everything else is an expense. You have expenses in this career, whether you sell something or not. So that's everything else. Your realtor association dues, your fees with your office, marketing expenses, business supplies that you're purchasing. Those are expenses that you have whether you're selling something or not. So expenses happen in our business. In any business that you own, you have expenses. And cost of sales only happen in real estate when you're actually selling something. That's the difference between the two. And are you tracking that? Because using methods to track these types of things. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right, so take a picture of that really quick if you need to. That's your quiz. Now, let's dig into this a little deeper. So again, we're going to start with the economic model, which is knowing your numbers, and we're going to talk about this whole thing about conversion rates. This is a real estate funnel. It has 3 sections to it. It has lead generation, what your database is, and what your sales pipeline is. We already kind of talked about the difference between a database and a sales pipeline. So we'll talk about lead generation for a sec. It all starts there. Everybody has 2 jobs in real estate. You have lead generation and everything else that you do. If you're not lead generating in a job, then you don't have a real estate business. So it starts with prospecting and marketing yourself. Your prospecting tends to be time enhanced and marketing tends to be money enhanced. So prospecting takes your time, marketing takes more of your money. Examples of prospecting could be doing open houses, going to networking events, door knocking, things that take your time, but don't necessarily take your money. Marketing are those things that you're adding that cost money. Can be postcard campaigns, mailing to a farm, all the different ways that you're spending money to gain leads. Okay, so that's the difference between prospecting and marketing. So you have a plan in place for doing that, which helps you capture leads. Then you're capturing leads and you're tracking them and offering to work with them. And some of those leads are going to turn into contacts there, which is a two-way relationship. They're agreeing to work with you. So you're connecting with them, continuing to build that relationship. Okay. Once you've connected with them, remember, this is the whole database portion. You're then cultivating them into actual buyers and sellers. Okay. That means you're turning that cultivation into an appointment, which turns into an active client, which turns into a client under contract, which turns into a closing. And then they go right back into your database and they're your client for life. You continue to stay in touch with them. That's what a funnel looks like in a real estate sales career. So when you think about back to the quiz, knowing your conversion rates, how many contacts do you have of those, and the contacts, remember, start with everybody you already know and everybody you're meeting during your lead gen. And then your contacts turn into appointments, appointments turn into contracts, and contracts turned into closings. You can see where that's broken down in this funnel. By the way, I have a number of handouts that go along with this presentation that I will email to you. If you email me at the end, I will email you the handouts that go with this presentation. And when I get a chance and I'm not in the middle of the presentation, I'll put my email address into the chat if you don't already have it. Most of you have it. Okay. So when you're thinking about knowing your numbers and your conversion rates, these are the questions that you want to ask yourself. You can go ahead and take a picture of this slide. How many units do you need to close to hit your goal? How many of those are buyer units and how many of those are seller units? So I asked you to come up with a goal of how much you wanted to make next year in real estate. Well, how much of that is going to be, how many of those units are going to be buyer based and how many are going to be seller based? How many contracts do you need to sign to hit your goal? How many appointments do you need to hit to go on to hit your goal? And how many leads do you need to generate to hit your goal? Okay. It kind of makes the funnel go upwards. So you're starting at the bottom with, well, if my units goal is I want to do 20 units next year, and I want 10 of those units to be buyer based and 10 to be seller based. You're talking about this part down here. You know that you want to close 20 units and that you want 10 seller appointments or 10 active buyers and 10 active sellers who have agreed to work with you. So you need to have at least 20 contracts signed, probably a little bit more than that unless you have 100% conversion rate, because every single seller that you work with and every single buyer that you work with is not going to turn into a closed sale. Okay, does that make sense? So how many contracts do you need to sign to hit your goal? How many appointments do you need to go on in order to get a contract signed, in order to gain a buyer and a seller? And how many leads clear up here do you need to generate to hit your goal? That's where conversion rates come in. Am I converting at 50%? Am I converting at 25%? Am I converting at 75%, 90%? Where are my conversion rates? The higher you're converting, the less people that you need to reach out to. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move to the next slide? You guys are a very quiet group today. Any questions? Don't be shy. This is why top agents track their conversion rates. So they have a better idea of how many people they're reaching out to that they're actually converting. And then if they're not converting people, that becomes a skill that they work on. Perhaps they need to do a better job at their listing presentation. Perhaps they need to do a better job at their objection handlers. What are the skills that I need to learn to raise my conversion rates? Maybe I'm just not doing enough lead generation. Maybe I need to work on a little bit more lead generation to gain more more leads that turn into appointments that turn into contracts. Start thinking about those things. That's what smart business owners do. Okay, now, so the first thing we talked about, remember, this is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. The first part is the economic model. Now we're moving into the lead generation model. So economic model is your numbers. We just focused on numbers. Now we're going to talk about your activities. Okay. So a couple of things for you to think about here. What are your method or methods? What is your method or methods of prospecting? What is your method or methods of lead generation? I like the word prospecting. It reminds me of gold, so I like that word. And my tip for you is to focus on 3, and I'm going to draw that out for you in just a few minutes. What are your methods? What do you do? And can somebody tell me some different, actually, I'll come back to that. I'll ask you for different ideas. So I'm going to ask you in just a few minutes for some ideas of how to prospect. Okay, how often are you doing it? Be honest with yourself. Really, how often are you doing it? Are you lead generating 5 days a week? What is that? How, are you setting time aside to do your lead generation? Be honest with yourself. That's the person you have to be honest with more than anybody else in this world. How often are you doing it? What is your marketing plan and your follow-up plan? So prospecting, remember, is more of your time. What are those lead generation activities you're spending time on? And how are you adding marketing to that, which becomes more of your money? And what are you doing to follow up with all those leads you're generating? If you're gonna, I always say there's no point in generating a lead if you're not gonna follow up with the lead, okay? So what's the follow-up plan look like? Are you doing follow-up weekly? Are you doing it monthly? Are you doing it quarterly? What does that plan look like? So that when people are thinking about real estate throughout the year, they're always thinking about you. How much are you following up with them? How much are you making sure they remember that you're in real estate? Are you coming to the top of their mind when they think about real estate? How many METs are in your database? So the definition of a MET is somebody you've already met, somebody you already know, okay? I always say lead generation is a one-time activity. When you're generating a lead, you're actually meeting somebody that you don't know, okay? And then once you know them, you know them, they're now somebody you've met. They may not necessarily be the high level category in your database of people that are your best friends, like your sphere of influence. They may be somebody a little bit lower level in your database. But how many people are in your database that you already know, that you've already met? How many have not mets are you adding to your database monthly? Monthly, weekly, quarterly, at least monthly. How many so in other words, what prospecting activities are you doing? I'll give open houses as an example because that's a perfect example. Are you doing open houses regularly that's getting you in front of people that you don't know, that you are then meeting, that become someone you've now met? So you're doing a have not met activity. You're now meeting people and you're getting their contact information and adding that to your database. And how many leads are you converting to appointments and then contracts and then closings? So this becomes your lead generation plan of your activities. Remember before with the economic model, we were focusing on the numbers. Now we're focusing on what are the activities I'm doing to get these leads to turn into people that I know that are actually working with me. Okay. So this is where we start to break it down a little bit more. That was a lot more definition and science behind the economic model and the lead generation model. Now we're going to talk about the transaction life cycle for, this says listings, it's just one picture. It's both for buyers and sellers, okay? You can have the same transaction life cycle for buyers and sellers. It just happens to be the picture that I grabbed. So did you guys realize that every single client you have out there is part of a life cycle in a transaction? It starts with lead generation, then goes to follow-up, then goes to transaction management. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And actually, while I'm doing this, I'm going to put my email address in the chat. So if you guys want the handouts at the end, you can use that email address. And now I'm actually going to start drawing a few things out because I feel like it's, instead of it just being a picture that you're looking at, I think it's sometimes helpful if I draw it. So I'm going to go to my whiteboard and I want to show you this cycle. Let me just make sure the whiteboard's working. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we've got this lead generation cycle. Okay. And you've got this line here, and we've got a line like a dashed line over here. Okay. And at the end, we've got a house that's bought or sold, and you've got a happy client. This is my little kindergarten drawing. Okay. That's what happens when you use a stylus. So, and you made some money, and again, everybody's happy. It starts clear over here with lead gen. Okay. You do your lead generation efforts. You're doing different types of lead generation to meet people. And then in the middle here, it turns into, I have a drop down that's not going away. Why not? Okay, let's just pick a different color. There we go. Okay, and then in the middle, it turns into lead follow-up and what I call conversion. Okay. Because you're following up with people, but the goal is to convert them into a client that you're actually working with. So it's not just following up, it's how are you converting people to move them along that funnel that we talked about. So it starts over here. And honestly, lead generation is a very small part about it. The biggest part of the relationship is right here. And then over here, we're really talking about escrow. Once you get somebody to that escrow part, it's also a very short part of this whole relationship that you're building. Okay, the life cycle of a transaction. So this is your transaction life cycle. Okay, starts with lead gen. Biggest portion is going to be this whole lead follow-up and conversion part, and then escrow tends to be a shorter portion. Now, in this cycle, you have peaks and valleys. Okay, so let's look at this for a sec. Let's say you start meeting somebody clear down here, and up here at the top, you've closed the transaction. You followed up with them, followed up. The next day, you're clear back down here again, starting over. Okay. And the goal is to get back up here to more paydays and more paydays. Now, what I found is a lot of agents hope they're finding a lead right here. They want to find a lead that's one or 2 months away from buying a property. And if the lead isn't 1 or 2 months away, they don't follow up with them. They're not worth my time. They're not ready to buy right now. Well, guess what? Real estate is a lifetime business. So if you're focusing on this career for a lifetime, you've got to be following up with people the entire way. This is called the law of emotional proximity. I'll give you an example of the law of emotional proximity. Let's say you go to Nordstrom's to shop, and you walk into Nordstrom's, and there's a greeter at the front door. And the greeter says, hello, how are you doing today? How can I help you? Is there anything I can point out to you? You say, nope, I'm just looking, I'm fine, thank you. And you get into the middle of the store, and you are looking for a pair of shoes, and they don't have quite the size, and you need some help. Do you walk all the way back to that person who greeted you at the front door, or do you find the person who's closest to you to help you? The answer is you find the person who's closest to you. So that means the person who is right there. So the way that correlates with real estate is the law of emotional proximity is I'm going to raise my hand and ask the person who's closest to me to help me when I need the help. It's going to be the realtor who has been following up with them, who's staying in touch with them throughout all of this time, not just at the very end. Okay, well, actually, it could be at the very end if you're not the one staying in touch with them. But if you've been staying in touch with them the entire time, they're more likely to call you because you're the one they're remembering. So you have to think about how often are you following up during this follow-up and conversion phase to get people to be working with you. And again, that's called the law of emotional proximity. So I like to show that because I think it helps you get a better idea of what this transaction cycle looks like that I was sharing with you. Let me stop sharing this. And go back to my presentation that I was sharing with you in this slide. So we just talked about what that looks like, the transaction life cycle. Now, there's one other thing that I like to have, that I like to draw out for you in my little chicken scratch drawings, that I also think is helpful for you to think about when you think about lead generation. Okay, so I'm just going to draw my little, some of you guys have seen this before. This is just a little stepping stool with 4 legs on it. Okay, this is your lead gen, sorry, there's an A in there, lead gen plan. Okay. Now, when I draw a stepping stool, would you agree? Let me just draw that part again. Oops. Oh, right there. Probably was being too picky. Come on. Well, now I don't know if it's going to draw for me. Sorry, you guys. Sometimes these styluses are. Okay, let's just do a new page. Hang tight with me. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're going to draw it again. So this little stepping stool is your lead gen plan. Okay, lead gen plan. When you think about a stepping stool, if a stepping stool only had 2 legs, would it be tippy? Would it be unstable? Yes. If it has 3 to 4 legs, is it much more stable? Yes. If it has more than 4 legs, is that even necessary? Okay. We can brainstorm probably 10 different ways that you lead generate. All right. We can, I'm going to do this, and I want, can you guys help me? I'd love for a little bit of participation here. Give me some different types of lead generation that you do. Let's hear it. Don't be shy. Somebody give me something. Yes, Jenny, let me hear it.
Well, you have your mailers, you have door knocking,
Door knocking.
mailers. And
Cold
then
calling. Cold calling. What else?
Birthday parties.
Okay, so I'm going to say that's networking. Open houses. What else? What other things, you guys?
attending different meetings in the community. It could be about parks. It could be about this.
Yep, right, those are networking events.
Oh,
What
okay.
else do we have? We've got social media that people use. Now remember, social media, well, I'll come back to social media in a sec. You've got FSBOs, you got expireds. Farming, nobody said farming yet, so I'm gonna say farming. Okay, did we come up with probably about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Can anybody think of a 10th? Can you think of another one? Well, we've got a good list there. I'm just going to keep going. We've got a good list here. So when you think about a lead gen plan, what I'm suggesting is get really good at a few of them. Don't be a jack of all trades. I tried this one, I tried this one, I tried this one, I tried this one, but a master of none. So if we play this out on the stool a little bit, this first leg is your database. The people that you already know, your sphere of influence, and the people that you're adding to your database. That's always the leg that you get the most business from. Top agents, you interview top agents on a top agent panel, and they will all say to you, I get most of my leads from my sphere of influence, from my database. Okay. All right. So that's the people you've already met. Now you're going to add some not met activities to this lead gen plan. So let's say we're going to add open houses. Let's say we're going to add cold calling, and let's say we're going to add social media. Now for social media, that's fine, but I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you using social media to generate new business, new leads, or are you using social media to stay in touch with the people that you already know? If it's social media is just for Mets, that's more of follow-up, not lead gen. But if you're using social media as a lead gen source to meet new people, then it does qualify. So it could be social media or it could be a networking event. My point is pick 3 different types of lead generation that you're going to do to meet new leads, because every single person you meet in these categories, you are then going to put them into your database. Okay, they're going to move over here. They become somebody you know, they become somebody you're following up with. So you've got lead gen and lead follow-up. And the more you follow up, the more likely they're going to move into that pipeline where they become buyers and sellers for you. So if you focused on 10 different sources of lead gen, and you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, you're doing what I call swimming the surface, skimming the surface, instead of deep diving and building your skills in just a few categories. So I always say focus on 3 and not more than that. Unless you're on a team and you've got different people on the team that are helping with different types of lead gen, then you're dividing it among other people. But if there's only one of you, you only have so many hours in the day. So get good at a few activities and focus on them, take classes in them to build your skills. All right. So now when we go back to the presentation.
Or can I have you jump
Yeah.
back to that screen? Because I can't remember what your handmade sketch.
You can't remember what?
Right below open house. I don't recall what this was. SM or 5M or what is that?
Oh, SM stands for social media.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. DK was door knocking, then mailers. Mailers can be a source of lead gen. It's definitely a marketing source. Cold calling, networking, OH for open houses, SM for social media, FSBOs, which are for sale by owners, expireds, farming. And I'm sure there's a few more that we could brainstorm on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So there was this one. If you guys want to take a picture of my beautiful little drawing here.
Well, it really meant something to me because, it's suppose I've tried all 10. Well, the idea is to just focus on 3, like you said, and get good at, good at something rather than be a master of none.
Right. Jack of all trades instead of a master of none. So let's focus on 3 and get really good at them. And then here's, oh, that was the one that I messed up on. And here's this little picture as well. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me go back to the presentation, which is being weird for me right now. Hold on. Share. Let me go backwards. Okay, let's go back. For some reason, it jumped way ahead. There we go. Okay, so I just went over the life cycle of the transaction for you. Ignore that it says listing, or you can add listings and buyers. There's a life cycle for each. And then we talked about sources for lead gen. It can be for listings or buyers. And then what are you doing once you have a lead? What's the follow-up look like? What's the follow-up plan look like? Okay, remember, there's lead generation, which is kind of a one-time activity. Then you're putting them into your database and you're following up with the goal that you're converting some of them into buyers and sellers. And that's when they get into this transaction management portion. Oops. Okay. So let's start talking about planning tools for success. Every good business owner out there aims for something instead of aiming for nothing. And part of aiming is writing goals down and using some tools to help you be successful. Okay. So 2 of the tools that we talk about in Keller Williams are the GPS, which stands for let me just put it all in here. Your GPS stands for your big goal. I already asked you guys what was your goal for next year. So a couple ways a goal can work. There's lots of goals you're going to set in life. There's going to be goals that are personal goals or goals that are business goals. Today is a business planning class, so I'm really talking about business today. So I asked you how much money you wanted to make next year. So what's the big goal for next year? And then what are the priorities or plans, that's the P, that you're going to set to hit that goal? And what are the strategies or steps under each of these priorities, that's the S, that you're going to take to complete the priority or the plan. So it's the one goal, the G, then your priorities underneath and your strategies underneath that. And then the other tool that we use for planning at Keller Williams is called the 411. The 411 takes these here and turns it more into what I call your daily job description. Okay. It helps you come up with, so when you, remember I said at the beginning of this presentation that we don't clock in and clock out in real estate. There's not somebody waiting for you to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning every day. It's really up to you. It's what you're going to get out of bed and do every day as part of your plan. And using a tool like the 411 helps you create your own job description every day so that you have a really good plan in place for hitting this big goal. So 411 for us, it's a catchy term. It means what's the info. It's really backwards. It's actually it's actually 114. So excuse me just a second. Stacy, there's somebody at the front door. Sorry about that, everybody. What is your annual goal, which is going to be the same as your big goal here? And how do you divide that annual goal into a monthly goal? So if my annual goal is I want to make 250,000 gross commission income, divide that by 12, and then you've got a monthly goal. Okay. Or better yet, I always say if you focus on the units, the volume is going to show up. So my goal is to sell 24 properties next year. How does an annual goal of 24 properties turn into a monthly goal? What would the monthly goal be on that? What's 24 divided by 12? Two a month, everybody. So your annual goal is whatever you set, if it's a units goal, and then divide that by 12 turns into your monthly goal. And then the 4 becomes, what are you doing each week of the 4 weeks to hit the monthly goal? Stacy's here teasing me. So, because I'm gesturing. So 4 weeks, so 411, it's actually 114, okay? Here's what a GPS will look like. And again, I have stuff that I will email you. I have a bunch of stuff, bunch of handouts. This is one of them that I will email you if you email me first. And I gave you guys my email address. So what's your goal for the year? That's your one goal. One goal. You can create a GPS for every different goal you have in your life. So what's the one goal? And then what's the priority you're going to use to achieve those goals? You can set 1 priority, 2 priorities, 3, 4. We don't usually recommend setting more than 4 priorities. It gets just to be too big and you're not thinking probably strategically enough. And then under the first priority, what are going to be my strategies to hit that goal? Second priority, what are going to be the strategies to hit that priority? And third priority, what are those strategies going to be look like? That's what a GPS planning tool will look like. And the 411 planning tool asks you again, what's your annual goal? Look at that. It even breaks it down. What's the net income goal? How many contacts do you have in your database? Are you working on your budget? Total units sold. There's a few different things here that you can add to that. How many buyer appointments do you want to go on? How many listing appointments? That then turns in again to a monthly goal if you're dividing it by 12. And then from there, you can say, okay, well, if I have an annual goal of selling 24 properties, then I'm going to have a monthly goal of 2 properties a month. What am I going to do each week to ensure that I'm getting 2 properties a month sold? How many people, how many appointments am I going in? What are my conversion rates? If I'm converting listing appointments at 75%, then I'm getting, let's say I go on 3 listing appointments and I get 2 of them, which is actually a little bit lower than 75% conversion in that math. But let's say I get 2 of them, then, and we know that listings are pretty much selling here because we're in a seller market right now, then you're going to know that you're focusing on listing appointments and you've got to go on at least 3 a month to get 2 of them signed, that kind of thing. Same with buyers. How many contacts are you adding to your database? What's your follow-up looking like? What is your lead gen looking like? Back to that little stool that we created. Are you doing open houses every weekend to gain leads? How many leads do you want to gain at an open house? Conversion rates, all of that applies. So that's what a 411 planning tool will look like. Before I go any further, I just want to say, no one expects you to have a PhD in this kind of stuff right at the beginning. The more you use a tool like this, the better you're going to get at it. Okay. You don't have to be an A+ student right at the beginning. And what's really helpful is if you have an accountability partner or a business coach that you're working with that can look at these goals with you and help you hone in on them and make them a more realistic goal, or with a great plan and behind it. Okay, now remember, we're using the MREA book, which I'm trying to get in front of me. There we go, right there. Ah. Okay, it's not showing up. There we go. Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And there's 4 models. We started with the economic model, then we went to the lead gen model, then they have the budget model, and oh my God, I just blanked on the 4th model. Thank you, Stacy. The organizational model. So just some things to think about when you're thinking about budgeting. Okay, you are a small business owner. Every real estate agent out there owns a small business. Are you a smart business owner? Okay, are you tracking your expenses? Are you using a monthly P&L, which is one of the handouts that I will email you? What are your operating expenses? What are your costs of sales? Are you leading with revenue? Which means you lead with money that you've already made instead of spending money that you don't have yet. Are you tracking your ROI, your return on your investment? Are you buying Zillow leads that cost a lot of money and you're not really getting any traction from that? Maybe that's a bad ROI. Maybe that's something you shouldn't be spending money on. Are you playing red light, green light with your expenses? What that means is we have a lot of shiny new objects that come at us in real estate. Okay, there's always some cool new thing that somebody's selling you that they promise is going to get you great results. Red light. Oh, I heard this presentation. It's really cool. I got to go back to my budget numbers. I got to go back to my revenue sources. Do I have the money to pay for this? Do I really, is this part of my 4-legged stool plan that I created? Is it part of my GPS or my 411? If it hits all those categories, then green light, go ahead and pay for that thing. If you say red light, it doesn't even fit into my plan, then no, don't spend money on something that doesn't fit into your plan. So these are the things that you want to think about to be a smart business owner, okay? And then the last part is your organizational model. Whether you're a solo agent or on a team, first of all, for every solo agent out there, I want to remind you that everyone has a team. You all have a team. Even as a solo business, you're not doing real estate all by yourself. You have your team in your office that are helping you. You have your escrow officers, you have your lenders, you have your inspectors, you have all your vendors that provide services for your clients, photographers, all those different people are a part of your team. So remember, you all have a team. If you're looking to grow your own real estate team, a couple of things to think about, and this is what the organizational model does. It has you focus on your people. The first hire is always the transaction coordinator, okay? You want to create an 80-20 rule in your business, or a 20-80 rule. Does anybody know what the 80-20 rule or the 20-80 rule is when it comes to real estate? Do you know what that means? What that means is that your 20% of what you're doing should result in 80% of your business. So you focus on your top 20% activities to get 80% of your results. That's your lead gen activities. That's focusing on your buyers. That's focusing on your sellers. Everything else is something that you should be able to hand off either to a transaction coordinator, or your first hire after that could be an admin, someone that's helping you with the 80% of the business that's not bringing you money-making activities. The marketing materials, the paperwork that you have to do, creating follow-up campaigns, all of that can be handed off to an admin or an assistant, a lot of times a virtual assistant, so that you can focus on the 20% activities that are actually making you some money. That's the 80-20 rule, okay? Focus on rock and roll. That means, what are your big rocks and what is your role? Your big rocks as an agent are to focus on lead gen, gaining buyers and sellers, and moving them through that transaction life cycle. That's your role as a real estate agent. As you're growing a team, other people on your team are going to have a different role, and they need to focus on their big rocks as well. And then again, you first hire a transaction coordinator. Your second hire is going to be some sort of admin support. Third hire could be also an admin. You could separate admin with marketing before you're even thinking about hiring a buyer's agent. Hiring an admin is much less expensive than hiring a buyer's agent, where you're paying a buyer's agent on every single transaction. You're paying an admin a salary throughout the year. So it tends to be much less expensive and keeps more money in your pocket. Okay, so that's the organizational model on that. So we just went over today the economic model, knowing your numbers. We went over the lead gen model, your activities. We went over the budget model, your money, and the organizational model, your people. Now, would you guys like to see what it looks like to net $50,000 in real estate? When it comes to the way they show it in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. Let me just open this up for you guys. This is something that I find can be really helpful. So I'm going to share one other thing for you. Let's say that your goal is to net $500,000 in real estate. Okay. So what the way they explain to do this in Millionaire Real Estate Agent book is for you to divide 500,000 by 40%. That turns into a total gross commission income of $1,250,000. So your total GCI will be $1,250,000 in order for you to net 500,000. You will then multiply the $1,250,000 by 30% for expenses and 30% for cost of sales. Okay, so 30% of $1,250,000 is $375,000, which then if you subtract from $1,250,000, $375,000 and $375,000, it nets you $500,000. Now, the next thing is, what's your average commission rate? Around here, I'm going to say it's pretty average to have a $25,000 commission amount. Okay, so you're going to divide this $25,000 into the $1,250,000, and that's going to tell you that in order for you to net $500,000, you need to sell 50 units a year. Okay, now how many of those do you want to be seller side and how many do you want to be buyer side? If you're doing a 50-50 business and you have 50% of your business is buyer leads and 50% is seller, this should say seller right here, not buyer. Okay. Then you're going to have 25 of those units being seller based and 25 of those being buyer based. On the seller side, if you're converting 75% of the time, which actually around here is a higher conversion rate now because it's a seller's market, that means of those 25 listings that you need to take, you actually need 34 listings to, and you're converting 75 to get to 25. Of those listings, if you convert 75% of the appointments that you go on, that means you need to go to 46 seller appointments to in turn end up with 25 solds. Some of you might say, well, the math is a little bit higher. That's fine. You've got to first be tracking your conversion rates and knowing how many appointments you're going on that are converting into actual signed listings and how many of those listings are converting into actual sold properties. I just did 75% rates. Okay. On the buyer side, if you need 25 sold units for buyer side and you're converting around today, we're not converting every single buyer into a closed sale because it's very competitive out there. So I gave you a 60% conversion rate. That means you need to have to do 42 buyer appointments, and or to get to buyer signed contracts, you have to go on to get 75% appointment conversion. You have to go to 56 appointments to have 75% agree to work with you. And then of those 42 that agree to work with you, if you're closing on 60% of those, that's 25 solds right there. So you can take a picture of that and take a look at that. So in order to get with this conversion rate, 75% over here and 60% and 75% over here, in order for you to close 50 units, it's 46 seller appointments a year and 56 buyer appointments. That will net you $500,000 in net income after expenses and cost of sale. You can take a picture of that. That just shows you when you add conversion rates, kind of what that looks like. And this is based on the math of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. I realize many of you are going to say there's no way I spend this much in my money, and that's fine. The point in this 30% here is you should not be spending more than that in your business. You can certainly spend less. They've done a lot of math and a lot of research on this, and they've said you don't want to be spending more than 30% in operating expenses, and you don't want to be spending more than 30% in cost of sales. If you're spending less, great. That means you're going to net more income. Okay. All right. I think that's helpful to show you, so I wanted to share that with you. Now, let's go back to just a couple more things for you to think about. And then if you have any questions, we'll take some questions and we'll be wrapped up for the day. Okay, your skill set for 2022. What are you doing consistently to grow your skills? Are you time blocking? Are you winning the day every day? I love to talk about the win the day formula. It really helps you focus on one day at a time. Okay. Are you doing the activities that you need to be doing today in order to win the day? When you go home at the end of the day, are you able to say to yourself, I did the very best I could. I focused on the activities I was supposed to focus on that I created in my 411 plan, and I won the day today. At the end of the day, if you look back on your day and you say, no, I did not win the day today, then you could say, it's okay. Now I know what I need to do tomorrow to win the day tomorrow. If you focus on winning enough days in a week, say you win 4 to 5 days out of the week, you've now won the week. If you win 3 to 4 weeks out of a month, you've won the month. And if you win 8 to 9 months out of a year, which gives you time to take vacations, that sort of thing, then you've won the year. So what does that look like in terms of your time blocking activities that are helping you win the day? Are you time blocking for lead generation every day? Are you time blocking for appointments every day? Are you practicing your scripts? Are you practicing your consultations for your buyers and sellers so that you have better conversion rates? Do you have an educational growth plan? Where are you at now in your plan, in your growth, and where are the next steps that you need to go to? Is that part of your GPS? Are you reading books? Are you watching podcasts that are going to help you grow? And are you putting that knowledge to action? These two are in backwards order for some reason. So let me do this one. Are you tracking? Are you goal tracking? We just spent a lot of time today talking about conversion rates and tracking. I gave you guys a little quiz. Did you even know those numbers? I hope you took a picture of that page. So are you tracking your goals and your systems for success? And then are you using coaching and accountability to help you grow in these categories? Here's an example of a time block calendar. This is based on one of the classes that we teach at Keller Williams. It's the Ignite class. I find that a lot of people don't understand the whole idea of time blocking. This is just a Google calendar. These are the calendars I use because we're tapped into Google at Keller Williams. Basically what you see at the top is your key, the color codes. I have a color code for learning. I have a color code for lead gen and lead follow-up. I have a color code for business tasks. I have a color code for seller and buyer appointments, and I have a color code for personal items. So in my weekly calendar, I blocked out time for exercise in the morning. I blocked out time for lunch. I blocked out time for dinner and family. I also blocked out time for a day off. We do know that in real estate, we tend to work a lot on the weekends. So you have to think about, are you going to work 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 4 days a week? Where are you blocking out for time off? And I just made mine kind of that pink color. You can make it whatever color you want. So that's my personal block. Yellow is for learning during the months where we're doing Ignite. Our Ignite classes are 9 to 10 in the morning. So that was why that's there, but that time block can be anywhere. I put a time block in here for practicing your offer, practicing writing offers, practicing doing presentations, which many new agents need to do. I put a time block in here for putting information into your database. That's the command input one. Put a green time block in here for your lead gen and your lead follow-up. Did that every day, 5 days a week. So that's 10 hours of lead gen and lead follow-up. And then I put a purple time block in here for appointments. So these are buyer or seller appointments. you could also mean that that could also be that you're doing open houses on the weekend and you could time block in green for open houses because green is lead gen. Okay, this is just an example of how you would time block for success throughout the week. Now, I have a question for you. If you get to tomorrow's Friday, if you get to Friday and you have this appointment open slot here and you don't have a buyer or a seller appointment there, what would you do instead? If you don't already have that blocked out with a buyer or seller, what could you do during that time?
Lead generate.
Yes, thank you, Angelica. Yeah, if you don't have an appointment in there, could you go back and lead generate to fill that appointment or to fill one of your appointments that's coming up? So think about that. If you don't have that blocked out, then replace it with something that's going to be a great activity to help you in your business. So this is an example of time blocking. It's color coded. The key is at the top, just different colors. You create the key by creating an all-day event and then you give it a color. That's how you create that in a Google Calendar. And it just shows up at the top every day. You can pick whatever colors resonate with you. Oops, why did I stop sharing that? I need to go to the next. Hold on. We're almost done, you guys. Hang in there. All right, next up. All right, time is of the essence. So again, this goes back to that win the day attitude or mentality that I like to think about. Are you winning the day to day? What's stopping you from winning the day to day? We all have the same amount of time every single day. What are you doing to use your time wisely? That's just what this is telling you to think about. So question for you is where you are today, how your story ends. Is where you are this day today going to be where your story ends? Or do you now have a plan in place to help you with your 2020 plan? So that is the presentation for today. I would love to hear from you guys just a few ahas of what you thought about this presentation for today. What are some ahas? What was something you learned today?
One of the things for me is basically the whole, jack of all trades, master of nothing type thing. I have an impulsivity of me to try to tackle so many things at one time. I try to multitask in so many different things, and I find, that very thing happening to me to where I don't concentrate enough on one thing, and I spread myself too thin. And I don't think that can be really, expressed enough as to really, drive it home and become somewhat of an expert on a few things, which is, much better than,
Yep.
A master of nothing.
Good. So that was helpful for you today to think about it that way.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you, Robbie. Who else? Anybody else have an aha for today? Something that they learned?
I ditto what Robbie says, because I think for me, it's now focusing on those things that I need to pay more attention to. And it's getting rid of all of this fluff that's in my head so I can see clearer. So I was glad that you spent time on that. It really helped a lot.
Good. Awesome. Thank you. Any other ahas for today? Now, I put my email address again in the chat, so I will email you all of the handouts I have that go along with this presentation so that you can use the tools to start planning for 2022. I highly encourage you to get a coach or an accountability partner to look over everything with you and offer some insight. We definitely have Mark in our office that helps with a lot of the coaching, and that's somebody that you can sit down with. Any other ahas or any other questions that came up for you that you have?
I like how there's kind of the to when you're starting from the bottom up as far as you want your CGI to be a certain thing, and you're kind of working backwards
Right.
to know what you have to do to map it all out, and how to utilize your time wisely so you're not busy doing things that can be better utilized in other places to accomplish your ultimate goal.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you've got it. That's again, it goes right back to where I started at the beginning. People aim for nothing and still hit it with amazing accuracy. And what we went over today helps you aim for something and figure out what that is that you are aiming for so that you can put a plan in place, because you're much more likely to hit it if you have a plan. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. And again, if you email me, I'll send you the handouts.
Thanks,
Have a
Laura.
good rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.